Ukraine's top military commander says that Ukrainian forces have stopped Russia's advance into the country's northeastern Sumy region.
Germany's Bundestag voted to suspend family reunification for those who don't qualify for full refugee status for the next 2 years.
Ukrainian forces have halted Russia's recent advance into the northeastern Sumy region and stabilized the front line near the Russian border. General Alexander Sysky said the successful defense in the Sumy region has prevented Russia from redeploying around 50,000 troops, including elite airborne and marine brigades, to other parts of the front line. Moscow has not yet commented on this claim. Before this, Russian forces had made slow, costly advances along parts of the roughly 1,000-kilometer front line, shelling the Sumy region with several attacks that killed civilians and destroyed buildings. Ukrainian authorities say their outnumbered forces relied heavily on drones to hold back Russian troops, just as US-led international efforts to broker a ceasefire in the nearly 4-year conflict went on. Those months-long talks have failed, with the only tangible result being the agreement to carry out a series of prisoner-of-war exchanges.
Estonian Prime Minister said everybody needs to pay their fair share out of solidarity for European security, as otherwise Putin will not stop at Ukraine. In an exclusive interview with Euronews, Kristen Michal said Estonia is prepared to face Russia. Estonia is already in the top 3 largest contributing members of NATO per GDP.
Putin needs conflict like fish needs water, because if you don't have a conflict, then probably people in Russia will be asking, where is my son, where is my husband, where are my assets, and so on. So to keep everybody under the lead, keep people quiet, keep the regime in power, Putin needs this kind of conflicts.
Michal emphasized that proximity to Russia is not the only major question, as he called on other low-spending countries like Spain to increase its defense budget. Recently, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez asked for an exemption to the 5% GDP expenditure on defense, with Michal seeking further explanation.
Every country has their own questions, let's say, in domestic politics. But to be honest, in NATO's declaration, I also asked the Secretary General Mark Rutte that do we have some kind of exemptions for Spain. He said that no, there are no exceptions and exemptions. So I would say that Pedro Sanchez will also have to elaborate himself that how he will fulfill the NATO criteria.
The Prime Minister acknowledging the burden that has been placed on citizens, but emphasizes the importance given the context.
We do both. We got spending, we are borrowing, and we also raise taxes. To be honest, not everything in that order are not very so popular in Estonia, to be honest. But where would it be? So nobody likes the taxes and nobody likes the cuts in public budget, but you have to do what you have to do to increase defense spending.
Estonia has pledged to raise defense spending to 5.4% by next year, while the other 32 NATO members agreeing to spend 5% of GDP on security by 2035. You can watch the full interview on the Europe Conversation next Thursday.
Germany's Bundestag voted on Friday to suspend family reunification for those who don't qualify for full refugee status for the next 2 years. Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt said the new bill was necessary because Germany's integration capacity had reached its limits, especially in education, childcare and housing. Germany's federal states are expected to approve the bill in July. The measure, supported by the far-right Alternative for Germany party, will affect some 380,000 migrants living in Germany. The bill was passed with 444 votes in favour, whilst 135 voted against. Dobrindt had previously ordered tighter border controls against illegal migration and the rejection of asylum seekers. Citizen complaints to the European mediator are on the rise this year. Teresa Ainjo reveals that the main criticisms are difficulties in accessing documents, public participation and a lack of transparency.
Eu apresentei recentemente o relatório, no meu relatório anual, onde é possível verificar que nós tivemos uma das maiores subidas de queixas exatamente na área da transparência. 42,2% das nossas queixas são da área de transparência, muito essencialmente associada à questão dos acessos aos documentos.
The new ombudswoman argues that it is better to prevent in order to increase the transparency of the European Union's institutions. Ainjo emphasised that the Commission needs to do more in future, referring to the Pfizergate case which involved the President of the European Commission in a text message exchange about vaccines during the pandemic.
Possível fazer mais e principalmente a Comissão Europeia, porque aquilo que nós assistimos são atrasos sucessivos, muitas vezes, na entrega destes mesmos documentos, e sendo um jornalista perceberá isso muitíssimo bem. Muitas vezes o acesso à informação que é adiado é um acesso à informação que é negado.
In a first interview with Euronews, Ainjo makes it clear that the European Ombudsman does not have judicial power, but it is on the side of citizens.
Nós não somos meros watchdogs administrativos, nós também somos e devemos ser um guardião da cidadania europeia. E subjacente à cidadania europeia está, de facto, o direito a participar.
Angino has launched her own initiative inquiry into the sensitive issue of revolving doors. The term refers to former public officials who take up roles in the private sector or engage in lobbying. This raises concerns about conflicts of interest between public duties and private gains.
18 people were killed in Gaza on Thursday after an Israeli strike hit a crowd of people collecting food from authorities. The strike in the central town of Deir al-Balah appeared to target members of SAM, a security unit tasked with stopping looters and cracking down on merchants who sell stolen aid at high prices. The unit is part of Gaza's Hamas-led Interior Ministry, but includes members of other factions. Israel has accused Hamas of stealing aid and using it to prop up its rule in the enclave. The dead includes a child and at least 7 SAM members, according to hospital officials. The strike was the latest violence surrounding the distribution of food to Gaza's population. After blocking all food for 2.5 months, Israel has allowed only a trickle of supplies into the territory since mid-May.
The European Union's lack of action on Israel due to its actions in Gaza and occupied Palestinian territories could erode the international rules-based order and set a dangerous precedent, a legal expert has warned. Speaking to Euronews, he said inaction could indicate a lack of leadership that he said, quote, others will take note of and exploit. He spoke on the sidelines of a street installation organized by global campaign organization Avaz. Their aim is to confront leaders with the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza and urge them to take urgent and decisive action. Dozens of people, including families and their children, gathered to honor the youth of Gaza. They wrote the names of hundreds of Palestinian children on paper placards, accompanied by flowers, stuffed animals, and other toys. Among those present at the installation were several doctors who had recently returned back from Gaza and testified about their experiences to the crowd. Last month, UNICEF said more than 50,000 children have reportedly been killed or injured in the Gaza Strip since October 2023.
Japan has executed a man convicted in 2020 of murdering and dismembering 9 people in his apartment near Tokyo. Takahiro Shiraishi used Twitter to contact his victims, most of them young women, whom had expressed suicidal thoughts on the platform. The so-called Twitter killer then offered to help them carry out their suicidal wishes. The killing sparked a debate about how suicide is discussed on social media, and the executions come amid a growing debate in Japan over the future of the death penalty.
The US and China have signed a trade agreement that was confirmed by China's Ministry of Commerce. It brings the two economies further into alignment after the threat of a major trade war. According to the agreement, China reportedly would continue to approve export permits of controlled items, including of rare earths. In return, the US would cancel a series of restrictive measures taken against China. After talks in Geneva in May, Washington and Beijing had already postponed massive tariff hikes that were threatening to freeze the trade between the two. Later talks in London then set the framework for negotiations. US President Donald Trump had already told reporters about the agreement on Thursday. Celebrities flooded the Italian city of Venice on Thursday to attend Amazon boss Jeff Bezos and TV presenter Lauren Sanchez's wedding. A private party was held for the couple's guests on Thursday, and the wedding itself will take place over the weekend. The guest list included everyone from retired talk show host Oprah Winfrey to socialites, athletes, and big Hollywood names. The wedding has triggered several protests in the historic sinking city. Activists say they do not have an issue with the wedding itself, but rather with what it represents. They say the event only serves to highlight social and climate injustice.